Good morning. This is Bill from Curious Cars and Auto House of Naples. It's unfortunate. It's definitely warming up. It still doesn't suck. It's not bad. It's probably somewhere in the mid 60s. Although, frankly, and there's another B. It's like bee season all of a sudden. Anyway, it's like mid 60s, and it could be worse. I'm certainly not comparing it to the misery of summer, but yesterday was nice. I had a light jacket on. Today, it's just not needed, and we appear to be in a warming trend for at least the next few days, which, I think it kind of sucks. I really do. I'm just looking for this cold winter that the bee is floating around and getting very close. I don't know if you can see it, but it's doing loops. Anyway, I'm looking for that unicorn cold winter down here where it's just chilly every day and lovely, and maybe it warms up enough to, take your jacket off at noon, but otherwise it's just nice, and we're not getting that. It's just not going to be that. I can already tell this year is not going to be that, so whatever. I'm going to take what it is that I get, and I'm going to keep going forward. Well, in the spirit of 1975, we did that Cordoba the other day, and I figured I'd shotgun another mid-70s person and luxury coupe through. This being a 1975, also, Buick Century Custom. This was a direct competitor to the Cordoba. It's kind of cool to have them both at the same time, frankly, because you get to rate them against each other here 46 years later. And because they're both garage queens, you can really get a feel for how they were new, although this one maybe ekes out the Cordoba a little bit. I have to say, this is one of the most miraculous cars that I've driven in a very long time, certainly in terms of preservation. I mean, it's freakish, but, it's definitely greener than the Cordoba. There's no question about that, not in the snowflake sense, but is it better? Because I think the world perceives it as such, but we're going to find out if that's true. The Century nameplate had been used by Buick a couple of times before, actually dating all the way back to 1936. It ran for I think like 8 years into the early 40s, and then went away, and then came back again in the mid-50s, but only for a couple of years, and then disappeared, and then came back again for this series of cars, this third generation Century, in 1973, and it replaced the Skylark name, which is interesting because, of course, it inherited all the stuff that went along with Skylarks, including a Grand Sport package. But it's, again, the third gen. It's built on the intermediate A platform from General Motors and offered coupe, sedans, and wagons. The A platform was prolific across the GM lineup. Everybody had one, Cadillac opinions. The Cadillac didn't, but the rest of them did. And I've done a few. I've done a Grand Prix. I did a Cutlass. I did a Monte Carlo. All of them what are called Colonnade cars, which we'll briefly get into. And all of them built on the A platform or a variant of it. So anyway, it was, one thing that's interesting about these cars is the coupes from Buick, they had two different roof lines depending on trim level. The base and the 350 coupe had a more elongated roof line, almost a fastback looking thing, with elongated rear windows and a sloping glass. The Custom and the Regal, they had this Colonnade style with the more formal look, more of a, I think the other one, it actually looks more exotic to me, even though it came on the cheaper models. But this one definitely has a more of a, personal luxury coupe look that I think went better with the times. But in 1973, you had some performance stuff going on. That Grand Sport was still there. Emissions were only just rolling in. The gas crunch had just happened, but hadn't happened while the cars were being planned for 73. So there were Grand Sports with big blocks and 4 barrels and all kinds of, epic shit under the hood. By 75, when this car was made, that kind of all had gone away. I mean, in a hurry. Gone was the Grand Sport option, interestingly, and gone were the big blocks. and instead you had a base V6 and only some optional V8. So, you know, the 70s had started to, or at least the Malaise era was coming into full swing, into predominance, and in 1975 that certainly held true for Buick. So in 75 you could get, basically you could get this. There was the Buick Century, that was the base model, no, you know, trim level added to it, just the Century. Then there was the God forgive me, the Century Regal, which was the top of the line. In between, you had the Custom, which was this car, which was kind of a mid-level thing. And then there was something called the Buick Century Special, which was weird. It was kind of a lightened economy car. It came with the V6 only and a 3-speed manual. And, you know, it took basically 0 options, so they could sell it for less, and it weighed less. And that meant the performance wasn't horrible for, you know, a big car with a little V6, but you know, you probably don't see too many of those left. There were still sedans and wagons, of course, in the Century lineup. Never a big fan of how the sedans look, but I think the wagons are absolutely stunning. Just beautiful, beautiful cars. And I really wish I could get my hands on one of those. But anyway, the Custom Coupe has very similar dimensions to the Cordoba, this car here. I think the wheelbase is off by like 2 inches. You know, width is about the same. V8 under the hood. You know, a lot of stuff is similar, including the price tag. So let's just dump into this thing. The Colonnade cars, these ones, they replace the longer and larger hardtop coupes. They were made to meet, you know, it's this top, basically. It was made to meet new federal safety rollover standards. You know, the old ones didn't have as much metal up there. The whole side of the car, all the windows came down and it was all opened up. And apparently that was a big no-no to Ralph Nader and the Fed. So the Colonnade was an answer to that. You know, despite being inspired by the government, I think it actually looks quite nice. You know, the opera windows certainly fit the personal luxury coupe craze at the time, and it did take quite well to vinyl tops. You know, it does have a nice shape to it. I also like that angled back glass. I think that looks quite cool with that top, and that does carry over to most of the other GM divisions. The sculpted headlamp bezels, you know, not unlike the Cordoba, but not quite as daring as the Cordoba. You know, actually in 1975 was the last year you couldn't have square headlamps. In 76, the federal government gave them the go-ahead. You know, weird shit back then. And then a bunch of cars very quickly went to the square headlamps because they'd been previously forbidden. But I think the round headlamps look really good, and I think I prefer them to the square. And on the front of this car, so you've got a swooping hood, you know, coming into the grille. Again, not unlike the Cordoba. You've got these sort of squared with rounded edges headlight bezels. Again, a little Cordoba-esque. Ditto the bumper with the grille. You know, the grille is wider on this car. It's not quite as ornate. It's not quite as showy. And I think it looks pretty good, but certainly not as daring as the Chrysler is. On the side of the car, okay, boom. You have to give it to Buick on that one. I mean, look at that big swooping line coming into the front fender. I mean, this thing is dramatic in a way that the Cordoba isn't. So whatever they lost on the front end in terms of impact, they certainly made up for on the side of the car. It just is way more dramatic than the Cordoba. This one is finished in a color called Ranch Green. This and most of the major appliances in my parents' home were the same color. You know, today you look at it and you think, oh my God, what an odd thing. But I mean, this color was everywhere back then. I mean, this was one of the definitive colors of the 70s. And while Cordobas and Chrysler seemed to zoom in on the browns and the, you know, Spanish thing, GM kind of went for the greens and the Brady Bunch look, I think, more than anyone else. And, you know, you can tell either has its charms. I probably prefer the GM look. So anyway, look, the problem is I've done 1975. I've done personal luxury coupes. I've made a bunch of long videos. So I'm going to reference those in here, and we're just going to dive into this car. This may truly end up being one of those proper short videos that I've always talked about. So let's have a quick peek in the trunk. We'll get under hood. I'll do a quick walk around on the styling again, and then we'll go inside and go for a drive. So nice big trunks in these cars. This one is not finished as nicely as the Cordoba's is, but that was also an option in that car. So I suppose if it didn't have that, it would look similar to this. You see that GM splatter paint on the sides? That's all very across the lineup. It's got the original spare tire there and one of these chrome mag-looking wheels, which is kind of sharp. Whoever owned this thing was psychotic. I have no idea who maintains and preserves a Buick Custom Century to this level over the course of this many years, but somebody did. God bless them, and it's just amazing to me. I mean, they put a Bluetooth radio in, and look at the condition of the original radio here, this AM Delco. It looks like it just came out of the factory. This is the original carburetor. It must have been acting up, so they put a reproduction on there, or a reman, but we're clever enough to retain the original one to go with the car for collectability. So some kind of nut job had this thing. That's also apparently an original GM floor mat. Wish there were two, but at least there's one, and it's a miracle that survived. There's your jacking instructions and that sort of thing, again, all haphazardly applied. This one is almost straight. Whoever that was at the factory probably got a good talking to from the union. So anyway, there's the trunk. Back here, while we've got it, there's the flip down gas door. Not to me as elegant as the one that the Cordoba has. I don't like it when it hinges at the bottom like that as much. What happens to me is it's got these this one doesn't, but sometimes there's these little points on the end of the screw. So I'm trying to get the stupid gas pump in, the nozzle, and the points come up and start poking into my flesh, and become really annoying. So, yeah, just something I remember from the past. The Cordoba's actually hinges up the other way. Don't know how they did it, but they did, and it works out really well. Let's have a look under the hood. The spring in that thing is pretty healthy. It's actually almost terrifying when you open up the hood on this car, the way it pops up initially. Oh, shit. If I'm going to be one-handed, it would certainly be better if it wasn't my left hand. For the love of God. Try that again. Okay, so here it is, and I mean, this is the GM that I grew up with, and it's a miracle to me to see it in this preserved original condition. I mean, look at this thing. This is the upgraded and optional Buick 350. By 75, this car came standard with the 231 V6, which had shit for horsepower. This has shit for horsepower, but at least it's got V8 torque. It's rated at, I want to say 145. You could get a 4-barrel version, but I think that added only an extra 15 by giving it some dual exhaust as well. So, I mean, 160 you're basically capped out at. Meanwhile, the Cordoba, it had the standard 360 with 180 horse, so it's already above the optional GM stuff. And then they had a series of 400 big blocks you could get, including one up over 200. The base engine in the Cordoba is, better than what you... Well, so if horsepower is your thing, it's better. I think this is a more refined engine, but I think the Cordoba had more oomph. So you really, in the beef department at least, have to hand it to Chrysler. This does have the Turbo Hydra 350 transmission, good transmission in this thing. It's got a 4-way coil, so you got, independent with coil springs up front. You got trailers in the back with coil springs and a solid axle. So it's, probably, again, even a more refined transmission than what was offered in the Chrysler. And I think it drives better as a result. But I also think part of that's because GM would have had much deeper pockets when they were designing and putting these Colonnade cars together than Chrysler did when they were developing the B-platform Cordoba. So, money goes a long way. Anyway, the preservation of this thing is just absolutely epic. You see, I think that is the original Frigidaire on there, the AC compressor, and it's working. You've got, this paper mache looking, intake air hose, which is still in nice shape and all together. Everything is the way that it came, and that's just so rare to find something that's been preserved to this level for 45 years. You just absolutely have to love it. All right, down that goes, and we'll take a quick walk around. So we discuss the front and the way it looks. Big fan of the wheels on this car. When I first saw it, I thought they were added. It had that look to me as something that would have come with disky-looking hubcaps, and then some, crafty collector guy put those things on. But we have the window sticker for this, and these wheels are on it. So those are the ones it came with. It has very nice rocker panel chrome, like the Cordoba. It's got an impact strip, Century script on the side of the fender, but no gold coin. You've also got the chrome wrapped around the top of the body where it meets the windshield and windows. You've got chrome around the windshield, chrome around the side windows. You've got 2 bullet mirrors. They're chrome on the Cordoba. They're body color on this. You've got the opera windows here. No opera lights. So if you're an opera light guy, Chrysler has you on that one. And of course, that very handsome angled back window, which I quite like. Again, that swooping bodywork is just epic. Really, really beautiful if it's your thing. Some people might find it unappealing. I think I did as a kid, but I really like it now. You've got color-coded door handles, which look nice. Little chrome-surrounded reflector lights on the side. Love those sort of thin and long angular tail lamps. I think they look great on this car, and the way they're sort of tucked under. It's got a nice look. You see one pipe out the back. This, again, with the 2-barrel, didn't have the dual option. I left that Winston-Salem Automobile Club sticker on the back because that's been on since the car was new. There is AAA paperwork in with the original documents. We have the original bill of sale for this car. Apparently, he traded in a 63 LeSabre 4-door, so he was a bit of a Buick guy, and he went out and got his Colonnade. Anyway, interesting. So there's the custom badge on the back of the vinyl roof. This one does have the full vinyl roof. I think a significant number of them just had it at the back, the quarter. And frankly, I just think it's a very handsome, forward-looking car. You've got a somewhat muted body line of a swoop coming from the middle of the rear quarter up to the top of the door, going into that line, which continues all the way through to the center of the hood. And then, of course, those big rolling fenders. So all very attractive. And here's where I'm going to give it a quick pause, get my crap inside the trunk, and then we're going to hop in the car, check things out, and go for a drive. Bear with me a minute. All right, so let's get rolling. I've got a quick aside. I have to say that to me, this is one of the most annoying times of the year. I mean, the only thing going for me right now is the weather. I'm not one of these people who likes to be jammed up all the time. I like to have time to breathe and think, and I've got none of it at the moment, and it's really driving me apeshit. There's like 6 big auctions all in a row, ones that I like to attend. They mean out-of-town trips, so I don't have much time to think about anything but that. Then there's the biggest spec race of the year, Turkey Trot, coming up in November. It is November. Coming up in Thanksgiving. You have to leave the day of Thanksgiving. I've got to do Thanksgiving with the family, which is irritating as hell, and thank God I do get to roll out of there early to get to the racetrack. Then there's Christmas on the way. I haven't had a vacation in like 83 years, or certainly that's what it feels like. I'm worn to the nub, and it's just in birds, and I've got birds coming in, and I've just had it. I've absolutely had it, and now I'm like loaded up with cars and other stuff, so it's not like a great time to take a break. It's season in Naples. This weekend I'm going to a baby shower, of all things. I mean, what am I going to wear, a dress, to this thing? A friend of mine, good guy, I won't name, Sean's his name. He's like in his 70s. Well, he's 50-something. He just looks much older. And his new wife is having a baby. I don't know how all that happened. And I mean, what a stroke of bad luck. I mean, holy shit. Can you imagine? I don't have children. I've always been very fortunate that way, and I've always taken great pains to avoid it. And here's this poor bastard in his 50s. All of a sudden, he's going to have this little screaming, nasty thing running around the house, pooping, doing whatever it is they do. And I just feel so bad for him. I don't know what to get him for this thing. Apparently, they're registered somewhere, but I'm thinking about one of those crates that they train dogs with. Maybe there's a way you could do that with the child. If there's one that's soundproofed, I'll look for it. But I imagine it has to have air holes of some kind, so the sound's going to get out inevitably. But anyway, long story short, man, I tell you, I need to do something to escape for a while, and that's just all there is to it. But anyway, nobody wants to hear all this crap. Let's just get into this car. I do love the white walls and those wheels. Okay, so here to me is the cherry on top, okay? This is pure 1970s. I mean, it is absolutely stunning. I love it. I remember when I was at this, it was like 5 days ago. I opened the door of this car and I just stood back and I took it in, and I thought that has to be the most stunning thing I have ever seen in my life. Now, I know some of you are looking at it now going, oh my God, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. And yeah, I've got a little bit of that too. You know, it's so ugly, it's beautiful. But I don't know. To me, I just think that is absolutely gorgeous. When I first looked at it, I thought it was paisley. I was pretty sure that's even what they would call it, but no. Apparently, this is called the gossamer fabric with, and this is interesting, Madrid grain vinyl sides. So that's the only Spanish reference I could find on the car. It's done in green to match the ranch green outside, and you know, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure this kind of stuff was around before the 1970s, but to me it is defined as the 1970s. And I think it's a shame that, you know, America has gone away from this, that they've lost their identity and just become, okay, let's make cars that look Japanese, or let's make cars that look European. This is gorgeous, man. This really is. I mean, what a cool interior in this car. And frankly, you know, there were many other cars that had wilder interiors than this one. So, you know, it's just a product of the times. Your Canadians are going to be in, you know, paisley heaven back there. Although it's, yeah, they do. Okay, this car has, what, 5 ashtrays? Or no, okay, it's got 3. So definitely people were smoking back then. You'll be able to fit 3 Canadians. There's no gun storage of any kind that I can see, so they have to keep it in their pockets or tuck it down into their pants. But otherwise, you know, they've got decent footroom. You know, same as the Cordoba. They've got a package shelf back there, and everything looking nice and tidy. So there's the stuff for the Canadians. This one has the split. Well, it's not actually. It's a bench seat with split seat back and headrest. So you know, you can fit 3 across very snugly. And you know, I mean, again, this is just such 19. I mean, you could see fitting 4 of your buddies in this thing and heading off to a Aerosmith concert in 1977. I mean, there's just an awesomeness to it that we've really lost today. My sister was telling me she has a couple of kids in high school. She's another one who felt the need to procreate. I have no idea why. And she said everyone's so screwed up in high school. I mean, they're all focused in on all this weird, you know, gender fluid, gender queer crap, and everyone's so uptight about everything that nobody's getting any. So it's just sad. I think we, you know, had a much better time growing up pre-internet, when people, you know, had a lot more fun. So who knows? Just the way that I see it. Door panels, lovely. Like the little button tuck things with the chrome surrounds. There's that ashtray for your backseat passengers. There's some corrosion in there. Nice little armrest. Again, window cranks, just like the Cordoba. This thing is so like the Cordoba in terms of setup. It's interesting. You know, green shag carpeting on the bottom. Everything looking nice and tight. You got a custom badge in the center. Just looks cool. And like the Cordoba, it's got some of these oil change stickers that people left on there. So anyway, let's just hop in and see what we got. Okay, I mean, look at the preservation of this thing. And I mean, I know, okay, I'm selling the car. I admit that. You know, this sounds like a sales pitch. But look at it. I mean, look at the chrome around the instrument cluster, the clarity of the gauges, the lack of dust. I mean, Dalton would only make this car filthier, without question. You know, it is the best preserved 70s GM interior that I've seen in a decade. I mean, it's just absolutely remarkable. All right, let's fire this thing up and go for a spin. We got a big pile of keys for this. Actually, we're just going to drive up to get out of the sun a little bit. They do have an annoying warning buzzer, I'll say that. You know, it's not quite that German U-boat is sinking shit, but it does sound like, you know, there's an incoming Soviet ICBM or something. Let's get up into the shade. Do like the way the Tri-Shield Buick hood ornament is up there, and that actually was an option that went along with the vinyl roof. It was connected to it. I turn it off for a minute. I'm gonna roll this window down. The thing actually does have air conditioning that worked when I got it, which is strange. Over here you've got your washer wipers, you've got your headlights, nice stuff, 100-mile-an-hour speedo, and fuel gauge, and then just a row of idiot lights, unlike the Cordoba, which came with the full gauges, with the exception of the TAC standard. So Chrysler beat GM on that one. This one has a tilt wheel, nice stuff. Nice loud horn, vinyl. I don't know if there was any leather ones in the upgrade. Maybe the Regal had leather, I don't know. But otherwise, just a remarkable preservation. It feels like I'm driving a new one. There you see that Bluetooth vintage radio that people put in this car. You know, I find that kind of interesting. They removed the perfect AM, but I guess if you were going to put a radio in, that's the one to do, because it is nice to hook up the Bluetooth. I was listening to my old country music. And then miraculously, whoever owned this thing was not a smoker in the 1970s or 80s. So, yeah, you want to talk about what are probably some really friggin' irritating people. There they are. Here's your climate control setup. Same exact one I had in my old Firebird. Top of the dash looks nice. And an AM radio, so just one speaker in the middle, and that's all you get with your Bluetooth. You got another ashtray here, so that's one of the three. Look at the Century badge on the ashtray. Up there. This thing is absolutely shocking. And then this is also fascinating. So here's the original purchase agreement for the car from Stuart Buick in Winston-Salem. You can see the guy paid $5,700 for it. You know, it had some options on there. He traded in his '63 Buick LeSabre, so he's obviously a Buick guy. He got what, he got $658 for that, so probably good money at the time. And it's just great to have a document like that still with the car. Really, really is. Here's the original window sticker with it. Absolutely love it. See, it was delivered to Stuart Buick. There's the VIN. Gives you the options. You've got the V8, the 350 with 2-barrel power disc brakes. So that was an option. That's interesting. You got a single rear speaker. You got steel-belted radials. Air conditioning was expensive, $453. That's the equivalent of, like, you know, $2,800 today. So that's real money for AC. No wonder a lot of these cars didn't have it. The chrome wheels weren't cheap either, but even stuff like the $7 door edge guards, and they're still on the car now, which is just really cool. Again, really neat document to have with the car, and interesting to see that it's still there. Back to this. I mean, whoever owned this thing was a nut. I mean, you want to talk about the guy with the human hand collection. You know, here he is. So he saved this original envelope with his name on it, and he's got car papers that he's typed. Remember, it's not printed. He had to type this on this envelope and this little clip. So there you get your owner's manual. You got your consumer information. Here's the guy's name. His name was Marvin Colbert. He's probably still around. And he's from Pfafftown. Try pronouncing that 10 times. North Carolina. So probably a very nice guy. You've got Buick accessories. I don't know what you could buy back then. Automatic level controls, luggage carriers, you know, fascinating stuff. Your Uniroyal tire warranty, your maintenance schedule. You know, again, it's just lovely to get a car like this with a bunch of original documents. It really, really is. And you don't always, sometimes those are lost, and even in some of the nice ones. Up top, I think that's just a clip-on vanity mirror, so his ladies could powder their noses. God forbid they tried to wear their shoes in the car or smoke cigarettes. They'd be shot on sight. There's neat little perforation in those sun visors, and you know, again, everywhere you look on this car, the preservation is just epic, and you really do get a feel for what it was like to be in a new 75 Buick Century Custom. Actually, I see. I'm not going to put the radio. You know how radio works. It's just a pain in the ass. So, All right, I tell you what, I'm going to pause it here because it's sunny and I'm sure Dalton's windshield is shit, and then we'll pick it up again at the end of the road. All right, let's do it. Okay, definitely anemic performance, you know, out of that 350 with the 2-barrel. Oh, why am I all zoomed in like that? You know, the Cordoba definitely had it over this one in terms of torque and oomph, but this one feels much more refined. Let me run this up. In fact, I'm going to put the air. Nah, I won't put the air. That's just silly. But this one feels much more refined. The steering, the suspension, the power delivery from the engine, and it's whisper quiet. I mean, the muffler on this thing is still working pretty. Now look, the car has 37,000 miles. The Cordoba has, well, not quite twice that. It was in the 50s. So they're both pretty low mile cars. But this one was obviously owned by a psycho. And you know, the steel from the fairing. That's the kind of shit I'm talking about. The feel from the steering is just gorgeous, and it's pure GM Luxo Barge 70s. It's tight, it's way over assisted, and it's a joy. You know, the power brakes feel nice, the suspension feels nice. I love the way the car torques up when you know, hit the gas a little bit. The left end of the car, the driver's side, lifts up. Again, just stuff that you don't get anymore in modern cars. They're just not like this. It is a tremendous boulevard ride. I mean, you feel like $1 million going down the road in this thing, and that's just part of the joy of having a really nice 70s entry-level collectible that's kind of rare, you know? People, I mean, yeah, okay, people preserve 69 Camaros or Mach 1s or GTOs. You'd see a lot more of that. Very few people preserved in original condition in 37,000 miles a 75 Buick Century Custom in ranch green with this gossamer green interior. It's just a unicorn, and it's such a beauty. It's such a joy to drive. You know, I have a feeling you take this thing to the car shows, it's going to get more attention than the you know, than the Grand Sport GS, the Skylarks and Cutlasses it's parked next to. It just is. I mean, it's, you know, because people remember these cars. They drove in them. They did stuff in them. Their grandparents had them. Their parents had them. And none of them really exist anymore. So it's just a lovely feeling to have it. So look, here's my quick sales pitch on this car. And hands down, it's the best 40-plus-year-old car I've ever had. Hands down. I mean, this has set a new bar for, to me, what a, you know, mildly patinaed, original the 70s car should be. This is the top of the heap. Best one that I've ever felt in terms of driving, looking, even in terms of the way it was ordered with all the green and whatnot. I'm just absolutely enamored of this car, and it's a treat for me to be driving it around. So there it is. That's all I'm going to say about that. More stuff coming up. You know, again, I bought a bunch of cars, so we're going to have them up on the videos. I'm going to try to vary them a little bit so we get some different eras as well. I know I kind of focus in on this Malaise stuff, but, you know, it's the kind of shit that I like. So if I can't do the kind of shit that I like, then I'm not going to have as much fun as I used to. So that's what we're going to do. If you have an interest in this one, I also don't think I'm going to put this on the website right away, so I don't dilute the Auto House European brand with, you know, 14 new American cars. Give them a call, 239-263-8500. And if you buy this thing, you're going to be pretty friggin' happy you did. I mean, it is a miracle. It's an alert the Catholic Church type miracle. So thank you again for having a look. Appreciate it. I'm going to keep slogging through the day and the week and the month. And yeah, that's it. We'll just keep rolling along. Thanks for everything. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And thank you so much for the comments. Love reading them. You guys are some of the, you know, I learned so much just from the comment section. I do. And I also get, you know, humbled from it when I'm taken apart. So it's fantastic. Thank you very much. We'll see you with the next one. Take care.